Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Definition, aka the guy who's gonna be keeping you on track for the next 10 weeks with Snowpiercer. The show has just dropped its first episode, and throughout this video we're going to be discussing its overall plot, ending and more. There will be heavy spoilers here, so if you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, then I highly recommend that you turn off now. If you're still aboard, then please subscribe to the channel, as we're going to be breaking down the series week by week, and you definitely don't want to miss what's next. With that out of the way, thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into our breakdown of Snowpiercer Episode 1. After the effects of global warming devastate the planet, scientists try and cool down the Earth, but in doing so, they instead doom the population. In an attempt to save what he can, inventor Mr. Wilford built a train 1001 cars long to wait out the thawing of the Earth. If you've seen the movie, you'll pretty much be up to speed with everything already, and similar to that film, we start off in the lower class cars which contain the poverty-stricken members of society. The tailies are crammed into carriages, fed crushed insects, sterilized and stamped on every time they try and rise up. 70% of the population actually exists in third in the tail, and their inequality is vastly shown by the lavish life that the front lead. This fuels their need to fight back, and it looks like the series will be focused primarily on two storylines: a murder investigation in the front end of the train, and a revolution in the tail. Revolution is an important term in Snowpiercer, as it not only means to revolt, but it also carries meaning for the train's journey itself. Every time the train circles the world, it's classed as a revolution, and therefore it carries a double meaning. We actually pick up right at the beginning of the lower class boarding the train and are introduced to Andre Layton, Zara and Miles. Security try and stop the incoming threat, and the leader of them, Commander Gray, is sliced across the cheek, which leaves a scar that we still see him bearing later in the episode. After a time jump, we see that Layton and Zara have split up, and the latter has been moved forward in the tail. Though we don't know why this was, it is important to know that they boarded the train together and were in a relationship beforehand. They knew each other's families, so you could say it was getting pretty serious now. Now, Zara wanted to die with her family, but Layton promised her a good life on the train, which we know turned out to be untrue. She likely became disenfranchised with the life in the tail and bargained her way out of there. Since then, she's not formed any real meaningful relationships and has drifted about with different groups, likely being in a similar situation to what she had in the tail. Zara is the one that informs the front that Layton is a policeman, and the two cross paths later on in the episode. Layton has become a parental figure for Miles, who has grown up, and with his quote-unquote train mum Josie, they've started a family. Similar to the film, the tailies are fed protein blocks, which we learned in the movie adaptation were made out of insects. It very much carries the meaning you are what you eat, and thus you get the feeling that the tailies are considered bugs. We're also introduced to Melanie Cavill, played by Jennifer Connelly. By the end of the episode, she's revealed to be Wilford, but whether she actually is or not is a point of contention. She sort of introduces the main players up front, and we meet Ruth, the Folgers, and their bodyguard. The Folgers are actually extremely rich people that financed the creation of the train, and they were the ones that provided Wilford with the money. They've likely met him before, and thus they would know whether Melanie was the character or not. On IMDb, Sean Bean is listed as Wilford as well, and thus we can take from this that he is really playing the character. So Melanie likely has him held captive or has killed him in order to take his place. If this is the case, then it would carry forth the revolution aesthetic that the show is laced with, and she would have ousted the head of authority in the front in order to control the train, similar to how the tailies wish to. Now, from the off, the season really recaptures the atmosphere of the film, and it's easy to see why with a lot of the creative team coming across from it. Boon Jong-ho is a producer, and the set design is extremely similar. However, that doesn't mean that Snowpiercer is merely copying the film. Whether it's going to tie in fully or not, we don't know yet, but it does look like we're going to have some surprises. The series has a great cast, and also some real familiar faces that I wasn't expecting to see. When they showed up, it got me really on board, excuse the pun, and each actor really brings their all here. Shoutouts Hector Salamanca and Trevor, of course. Within the first 10 minutes, the tailies are already planning their revolt due to the first class starving and sterilizing them. In the film, we learn that in order to keep the population at a certain level, Wilford would starve, sterilize, and occasionally allow an uprising to happen in order to kill off masses of the populace. He did this through an insider in the tale known as Gilliam, but here it doesn't really seem like there's someone working for him, but I guess we will find out. What the tailies do suspect is that Leighton may have filled this role after he's called forth to investigate a murder within First. This is carried out by Ruth, who dons a fur coat when making her announcement, similar to how Minister Mason did in the film. Also, I'm sure Ruth is played by the same actress as the casting woman in Hollywood, so yeah, maybe she got this role because she's good at standing in front of people and making announcements. Anyway, what this does is that it shows that the tail is far colder than the front and that they have it really bad there. There's lip service paid to another revolution and the removal of arms, which, as we saw from the film, was a punishment when the tailies stood up to authority. Leighton is put through sanitation, which brought up images of concentration camps for me, and he's escorted by the brakemen. Leighton gets to see the sun for the first time in a long time, and we also see the length of the train as he's put into the mess hall. Here he meets Roche, who informs him of the body of Sean Wise, who's been cut up and dumped into a hidden compartment. We learn that he was sleeping with Zara, aka Leighton's partner before the train. Zara was in a relationship with 3 people, and those in her car tend to be polygamists. This is called a chain, and it's what you gotta do if you wanna run train. Leighton is also introduced to a former Detroit police officer called Beth, who beats him up and is clearly very prejudiced towards him, even though before all of this he would have actually been her superior. A similar crime happened years prior, and a person was convicted for it, which means that there's either a copycat or Wilford jailed the wrong person. This convict is Nikki J, who we learn has been under suspension for 2 years. On Snowpiercer, this is carried out by putting people in a drawer and slowly injecting them with Chronol, a drug that causes hallucinations. If you've seen the film, then you'll know that Chronol has been modified into a street drug, and we spent a lot of time in the movie with Nam Goong, who was an addict. It's also capable of being used as an explosive, so you can expect it to play a big part throughout the season. Leighton is taken back to Zara, and he also goes through a greenhouse car that carries a similarity to the Garden of Eden. Here Melanie picks a strawberry, and though it's not an apple, which was used in the Bible, the fruit carries a similar meaning with it. Melanie is a god. She possesses all the knowledge and power here, and Leighton is subservient to her. However, he wants to break free and gain what she has, similar to Adam and Eve. Melanie picked the fruit first, similar to how Eve picked the fruit first, and Leighton could also be viewed as a stand-in for Adam. The film ended on an Adam and Eve aesthetic, and the season may end up with the two coming together, especially if Wilford is God. We also see a class trip taking place there, and the teacher is indoctrinating the children to the message of Wilford. In the movie, the teacher hammered home that life outside the train instantly meant death, but we did learn throughout that things had begun to unthaw and it was possible to exist outside. Up top in the aquarium car, we join Jinju, who meets with Melanie. Jinju is seemingly in a relationship with someone, and though I have seen some say that it may be Melanie, I think due to Melanie asking who this could be, it isn't the case. They talk about other work continuing, and this may be a reference to how she has taken the roles and responsibilities of Wilford. What she does isn't too clear yet, but due to her position up the car, she's clearly very wealthy. The way that the train works is that the further up you are, the more powerful that you are, and thus we can take from this that she's a very important individual. Back in the tale, it's Yvonne's birthday, and he asks for a Rachmaninoff recording. Rachmaninoff actually died 4 days before his 70th birthday, and this is sort of echoed here. Yvonne commits suicide, and as the train's eldest member, this sends the tailies into a meltdown. They get the security guards to come and collect his body, and they rush the brakemen and guards. A character named Strongboy, who is a mute, rushes up top, and he's joined by the homie Trevor from GTA. It's here that we see the return of Gray, the high-ranking officer from the introduction, and Melanie recruits Leighton to calm the situation down. Leighton is given 3 minutes to complete the task of stopping the revolution, and in numerology 3 means completion, creation, and in the Bible it's often a sign of divinity, something that Leighton represents. And that's the biggest reach in the video. Leighton diffuses the situation and saves Beth by knocking her out. This may make her realise that her prejudice towards him was wrong, but we'll see as we get further into the series. Leighton convinces the group to surrender, and thus they're sent into suspension in a drawer. Leighton is planning on using them in reserve for when the revolution actually happens, and though the attempt has been diffused in this first episode, the season will likely still head towards it. The episode ends with Melanie going to the engine room, which is actually revealed to be a dormitory. So, unlike the film, the engine is actually a ruse, and therefore it may not be contained within a room. It's said throughout both the show and film that if you control the engine, then you control the train, and this metaphor of Melanie's quarters being called the engine could hold a double meaning here. We see images of Melanie's family, and it seems like she has a daughter, which is why I believe that she's not really Wilford. Ruth also says something about Wilford demanding swift justice, so it is possible that she also has had an interaction with him before that Melanie would be unable to fake. However, she does have a hoodie that says MIT on it, which is a technology college, so perhaps she is indeed who she says she is. Melanie plans out strategies on a chessboard, and there's a red line around her apartment. This is similar to the tracks that we see in the introduction, circulating the world. She goes up to the car and meets the driver, who addresses her as Mr. Wilford. Again, I'm sort of torn on this, as I think Wilford was such a famous character in the world that many would know of him before the environment collapsed. In addition to this, we know that Sean Bean is cast as the character, so I do fall under the impression that Melanie is either working for him or has taken charge of the train, causing her own revolution that is unbeknownst to the rest of the passengers beyond the driver. Either way, what a cracking way to start the show, and I really enjoyed the first episode. It's got a brilliant balance of mystery, the revolution that was laced throughout the film, and there's a lot of things to be excited for going forward. Obviously, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the premiere and what you thought of the twists. Comment below and let me know, and if you enjoyed this then please drop a thumbs up and make sure you stay locked to the channel for breakdowns on the show as it progresses. If you want something else to watch and to maybe get some clues on where things are going, make sure you check out our breakdown of the film, which is going to be linked at the end. We go over everything you need to know, so it's definitely worth checking out if you need a quick catch up. If you want to support the channel from as little as 99 cents a month, then please click the join button below. We massively appreciate it, and as a thank you, you get access to content early. If you want to come chat to us after the show, either follow us at DefinitionYT or click the Discord link in the description below. Every month we give away free movies to people who are subscribed to the channel, and this month you can win the Marvel Phase 3 Part 2 box set, and all you have to do is comment on a video and make sure you sub with notifications on. The more videos you comment on, the more you have a chance of winning, so make sure you get involved. The winner is going to be chosen at random on the 15th of June, so best of luck to everyone who takes part.